3, 2, 1, drop test. All right guys, so we are gonna start the install for the 2024 BMW S1000RR. This is gonna be a step-by-step detailing exactly how to install our Impaktech race rails and the Impaktech adjustable subcage. If you want to see a really quick video, we made a 60-second video on Instagram where you can literally see the entire install in 60 seconds. If you want a more in-depth, this is going to be the video. When you open the race rail out of the box, you're gonna get a left and a right side race rail. These came in gloss red. If you were to order them in raw, they're gonna come in bare steel, which is gonna be the quickest option that we have to be able to ship it out as fast as possible. You're gonna have your hardware pack. It's gonna come with 4 Delrin pucks, and then you're gonna have all your hardware bolts here. You're gonna have some decals, and then you're gonna have your bracket. So the bracket is going to come in the S1000RR Race Rail. The bracket is going to allow the race rail to be a no cut. So if we come over here on this side, the main motor mount bolt is actually covered by this fairing, right? This is going to be the portion of the frame that we use to mount the race rail. If we were to mount it directly here, you have to cut all this piece, and with a $20,000 bike, we're not going to do that to you guys. So what we made is this bracket, which we're going to remove this portion of the fairing. It's going to go under here, connect to these 2 points, and then the race rail will connect here. We'll go ahead and show you how to install it detailing, but I just wanted to let you know that this bracket is included in case you open the box and you don't know what it's for. We are going to start working on the throttle side of the motorcycle, so on the right-hand side. First thing you're going to do is grab a T50 socket and break the main engine mount bolt. Okay, get that broken out. There is going to be a spacer in here. You don't want to remove that spacer. That spacer is actually going to be used with our race rail, so make sure that spacer comes in. If it comes out, just go ahead and reinsert it back inside. And now we're going to do the exact same thing to the rear all thread. If you see back here, this is also going to be a T50, so go ahead and remove that bolt. Now these bolts are going to be very tight. What I would recommend is use a breaker bar to get all these motor mount bolt and rear all thread bolt broken off. All right, so the rear all thread bolt has now been removed. Now we are going to use the right-hand side of the race rail. I'm going to show you an example of how it mounts on before we install the hardware. I would recommend you use 2 people for this, because the last thing you want to do is you want the race rail to drop here and scratch any of your powder coating on the frame, or worse, scratch any of your fairing. So the bottom section here is going to go straight to your motor mount bolt, and then the rear section is going to go into here. So this is how it's going to mount. Now I'm going to show you how to install the hardware. It's very important that when you open up this hardware kit, you make sure that the spacer and the crush washers all stay within the same bolts. You don't want to get them mixed around. So I'm going to take them out one by one. And again, make sure whatever hardware comes with them stays on them. Very, very important. All right, so for the rear all thread, you're going to use this 10M by 1.5 by 120 millimeter. And then for the engine, you're going to be using the 10M by 1.5 by 80 with the 3/4 spacer. So you're going to grab the main motor mount bolt, and we are going to remove the 3/4 spacer, and we're going to leave the crush washer and the flat washer in there. You're going to lift the race rail up, and on the bottom motor mount bolt, you're going to see a hole through there. We're going to insert it with all the hardware on it, and it's going to go through, and then we are going to attach the spacer on the back end. So it's going to go like this, sitting up against your frame, okay? So now let's go ahead and get that installed here. So we're going to, just like this, we're going to start putting it in. And the bolt that we provide is going to be a 5/16. So just grab a 5/16 socket and then slowly start to screw that in. When you're doing this step, please take your time. You don't want to strip anything, so just make sure to take your time. All right, so when we're installing it, you want to make sure that there's a little bit of play so we can install the back portion of it. And then also be very careful when you're installing the provided bolt from Impaktech. You don't want to strip your motor mount threads. So just go ahead and take your time. Don't use any sort of power gun tools or anything. Just use handheld tools and just make sure that you feel it out and that the thread's going in there. Same thing for the rear section. Now we're going to grab that bolt and we're going to insert it straight through here. So we're going to grab the rear section bolt. Now we're going to go back here and tighten this portion again. We are now going to grab our torque wrench and we are going to torque the main motor mount bolt to 30 foot-pounds of torque and the rear all thread to 15 foot-pounds of torque. Now we're gonna move to the left-hand side, which is gonna be our clutch side. For the left side, we are gonna remove this portion of the fairing. Be very careful. A lot of these parts are just tabs. We're gonna grab a T25 and we're gonna remove this bolt and this bolt to start off. Now we're gonna go underneath the radiator and we are gonna remove this bolt. And then these bolts up here are gonna be T20. They're a little bit smaller, so remove those as well. All right. Now there's a lot of different ways that you can pull these. I've pulled them on so many of them. I use a flathead, but you gotta be very careful not to scratch the fairing. I've done this a long time, so if this is your first time, I would suggest put some Pater's tape around here and on the edge of your screwdriver, and as you're pulling, just pull in one side. Once you do it, you can pull all the tabs out for the BMW logo, and then there's gonna be one more T25 right up in there. And again, if this is your first time removing all your fairings, or this fairing in particular, don't use a power tool. Just be very safe and just do everything by hand. This bolt is very, very long. There is one more T25 back here, so just get that last one removed. So we're gonna go ahead and pull this. All these are tabs. Right here, you just have tabs as well, so don't be scared, just pull them back, okay? Don't be scared, and then everything's gonna come off in one piece. As you can see, these tabs here, these are very important that you don't break. A lot of times, you'll tend to pull like this, and that causes them to break. What I do is I literally just have one hand here, push this back, push this forward, and then it'll just come off just like that in one piece. I'm gonna put this somewhere safe so it doesn't get scratched up, and I'll be right back. Okay, now that we have the fairing removed, I want you to grab a T50 and remove these two main motor mount bolts. We got these removed. Now we're gonna grab these two bolts from our hardware pack. We are gonna remove the 1/4-inch spacer off of both bolts and set these down to the side. We are gonna grab our brackets, and just so you can see how the bracket gets installed, the bracket is gonna go just like that, okay? But before we do that, there has to be a spacer there. So we are gonna grab our bolt with our crush washer, insert it from the top. We're gonna do that to both ends. And then on the back, we are gonna install our spacers. So both spacers will go on the back just like that. We're gonna hand tighten these down. And then grab your 9/16 socket. All right, and now we are gonna use the torque wrench and torque this at 30 foot-pounds and this at 30 foot-pounds. 30 foot-pounds. Now, we're gonna reinstall that plastic and put everything back, and then we'll install the race rail. I always like to install the tabs first. That way we're aligned. So I'm gonna go in here, follow this tab, go straight here. Make sure you hear the click. Make sure you hear the click. Now I'm gonna grab that long bolt, the T25 that we had, and we are gonna go through the BMW logo first. Grab your BMW logo, click right in. Now do everything we did, reverse. Grab a T50 and remove the back side all thread bolt. Grab your left-hand side race rail, the clutch side. We are gonna grab the smaller hardware and we are gonna insert that right through the secondary motor mount bolt. And then that is gonna go into here. We're just gonna line that up. And again, when you're doing this, just take your time. You don't wanna strip anything. All right, now we're gonna go to the rear section, grab the rear all-thread bolt, and do the exact same thing to the back. All right, now we're gonna get this torque down. The rear section is gonna be 15 foot-pounds of torque, and then this is gonna be 32 foot-pounds of torque. All right, so now the left side is done. Next step is gonna be, we're gonna install the Delrin pucks on both sides. So grab a 10mm socket. In the hardware pack, there should be 4 Delrin pucks. We are now gonna install those, and then there should be these 4 10mm tech screws. Basically, you insert it into the rail, you get the 10, you have a pilot hole there, so let's go ahead and get that done on this side. Insert it. Not going nowhere. Now, all the race rails do have an option when you're ordering it to get either a black or a white logo. The logo is just gonna be a sticker. They come in the hardware pack. They're not gonna come pre-installed or anything. You have the option to install it, or you have the option to not. We're gonna go ahead and leave it just as this, so it looks really clean. But again, the black and the white logo on the website is just gonna be a decal, and that's gonna come in your hardware pack. Now we're gonna move forward to the rear section of the motorcycle, the adjustable subcage. Now this install is gonna be even easier. It just consists of 4 bolts. So let's go ahead and get started on that. But before we do, I'm gonna show you the adjustable subcage and how it comes out of the box. But yeah, if you guys have any questions regarding the Race Rail, don't hesitate to call us. We have a tech line open Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., 951-233-7335, or shoot us an email at impaktechusa@gmail.com. The adjustable subcage consists of 4 bolts. First, we're gonna remove the passenger pegs. It's gonna be a T40, so we're gonna start on this side. Just grab a T40. Now, we do provide you with bolts for the adjustable subcage, but I would not throw these away. These bolts actually fit on a lot of different places on your BMW, so you can just keep them as spares. The easiest way to do it, if you're installing it by yourself, I would recommend you remove these 2 brackets and install these 2 brackets one at a time. The reason being is if you have somebody else to help you, I would loosen up these 2 crossbar bolts here, loosen these 2 bolts on one side. That way there's flex on the subcage, so when you're installing it, you're not forcing anything in. But since I'm gonna be installing it by myself, I'm gonna just remove these 2 brackets here. All we're gonna use is a 6mm Allen. All right, save these 2 bolts here. Now we're gonna head over to the right side. The 2 bolts that come on, you're just gonna unscrew, and those are gonna be the mounting bolts that you're gonna use for your OEM subframe. All right, now we're gonna do the other side. We're gonna leave these bolts here. And again, we're gonna do the same thing on the other side, remove these 2 bolts, and then we're gonna go ahead and install these to the subframe. Okay, now that we have both of the brackets on the subframe, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna install the subcage. I would recommend you unloosen these 2 bolts here. That way you have a little bit of play so you're not scratching any of the powder coating. If you're doing this by yourself, be careful, do one side at a time. If you have somebody else to help you, that would be ideal. So this is the way that I like to mount it. You have a lot of different positions as far as like mounting it, right? That's where all these thread holes are here. Typically OEM, it comes like this. You'll have one in the bottom and then you'll have the second one on top. What I like doing is I like having one on the bottom and then one all the way on top. That way I can adjust this peg to be higher up to the tail. So in case of an accident, this Delrin puck is here to protect that portion of it. Plus, I think it looks really good that way. It looks a lot more aggressive. So that's where I'm gonna get it bolted. So to the very top bolt, and then I'm gonna go to the very bottom bolt. And then on the other side, we're gonna do the exact same thing. Now, if you have a fender eliminator where it mounts directly onto here, the cool thing is you can unloosen these bolts and bring the crossbar down, or you can adjust this bracket lower so that it sits here and your crossbar can be a little bit higher. But there's a lot of different ways to adjust this adjustable subcage. Again, the way that I'm doing it now isn't ideal if you're gonna have like a passenger on there. It's ideal for the best possible protection for this motorcycle. We're gonna wanna make sure that the crossbar isn't touching the actual bottom plastic of the subframe. So we're gonna lower it down just a little bit. So I'm gonna loosen it here on my side. A little couple looses, see that's moving. I wanna give it a little bit of clearance. You wanna make sure that even if you don't do any sort of adjustments, when you do install this, you wanna tighten everything. You don't wanna have anything loose, or else with the vibration of the road, these might come off. And now we're good, and that's exactly how I'm gonna leave this particular subcage. If you're a new rider, I would recommend you adjust this a little bit higher. I'm gonna leave it here just like this because I like the way it looks. But let me give you an example of what I mean, right? So you have this flower here that gets inserted into this arm, and then you have the peg here, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove this flower, which is just a 6mm bolt from behind here, and then you're gonna go ahead and have these locks interlocked with the arm, and then you can move it 360 degrees all the way up, all the way down, right? So ideally, I would want to have it like this. If you care just about protection, you're not gonna have a passenger, but there's a lot of different settings you could have. I mean, if you have somebody with longer legs, you can go down. Somebody with shorter legs, you can go a little bit up higher. There's a lot of adjustability when it comes to this subcage, and that's the beauty of it. It's 100% made out of CNC billet aluminum 6010 air grade craft, so it's the best quality. This does come with a lifetime warranty as well from any sort of manufacturer defects. If God forbid you were to go down, the subcage is designed to break at a spot where it's weakest, right? So like, let's say you were to go down and the peg breaks, you can go to the website, buy this peg for $40 and call it a day, not have to buy the entire subcage all over again, right? Same thing with any of these components, the crossbar breaks, the arm breaks, something happens, you can always go ahead and buy those. We always have them in stock and they ship out within 24 hours, so that's the beautiful part about it. But there you guys go. That's gonna be the installation for this 2024 BMW S1000RR. Head over to our Instagram at Impaktech. We have a lot more S1000RR content, and then we're gonna have another video explaining why I recommend the Race Rail and the subcage, so make sure to stay out for that. All right guys, as you can see, the Delrin puck took all of the damage, and the subcage also caught the bike on the back. That's why it came back. This is $12, and this is $12. That's all you need. Hey, you're good to go.